Alan Shearer has seen a lot of football in his life. Over 2 decades as a player, nearly 40 years watching, analyzing, and commenting on the game at the highest level. 46 years as an England international. More than 600 Premier League goals scored at the sharpest end of the most competitive football environment on earth. He is not a man who reaches for dramatic language lightly. On the night of the 7th of July 2026 at Atlanta Stadium, Alan Shearer watched Argentina versus Egypt in the round of 16 of the FIFA World Cup. He watched Egypt take a 2-goal lead against the defending world champions. He watched Egypt have a goal disallowed by VAR for a foul that occurred more than 10 seconds earlier on the other side of the pitch, while Argentina had possession of the ball. He watched Egypt appeal for a penalty almost immediately afterward for contact involving Mohamed Salah inside the Argentinian box, and he watched the referee wave it away without a VAR review. He watched Argentina score 3 goals in the final 11 minutes to win 3-2 and advance to the quarterfinals. And then he picked up his phone and posted 6 words. Either both are fouls or neither is a foul. 6 words, followed by a hashtag that simply said, "It's rubbish." From Alan Shearer, that is not commentary, that is condemnation. And those 6 words, precise, direct, unanswerable in their logical simplicity, became the sentence that the football world reached for over and over again in the 24 hours that followed, because they captured, better than any detailed legal or technical analysis, the thing that had actually happened in that stadium. Not a single controversial decision, a pattern. 2 incidents, near identical in their nature, one disallowing an Egypt goal, one not producing a review that might have given Egypt a penalty. Same match, same referee, same VAR team, opposite outcomes. That is not a decision, that is an inconsistency. And inconsistency, at the highest level of the sport, is the thing that fans cannot forgive. Let's go through exactly what happened, because this story deserves to be told in full rather than reduced to a reaction clip. Egypt had led Argentina 1-0 when the pivotal moment arrived. In the 58th minute, Mohamed Salah, playing what may have been his final World Cup match at the age of 34, laid the ball cleverly into the path of Mustafa Zico. The Egyptian midfielder was clear. He slotted it in from close range. He tore off his shirt. His teammates surrounded him. Egypt were 2-0 up against the defending world champions with less than 30 minutes remaining. And then the VAR team intervened. They had identified a foul that occurred approximately 20 seconds before the goal. Egyptian midfielder Marwan Atiyek, while contesting a challenge with Argentina's Lisandro Martinez on the halfway line, had held Martinez's shirt and simultaneously stood on his foot. The contact was visible on replay. Whether it constituted a clear and obvious foul, the threshold VAR is supposed to apply, was immediately disputed. The referee, French official François Letexier, went to the pitch-side monitor. He reviewed the incident. He disallowed the goal. In the commentary box on the American broadcast, analyst Rob Green said immediately that he didn't believe this was within VAR's remit to review. Too far from goal, too much time elapsed between the foul and the finish. Former FIFA referee and officiating expert Mark Clattenburg was more direct after the match. He said he didn't believe it was a foul. He said there should not have been a VAR intervention at all, and then he said the line that became the second most shared quote from this match. He said that VAR was looking at something too deeply and looking for something that had happened in the game to try to cancel the Egypt goal. He said approximately 10 seconds had elapsed from the foul to the goal, across multiple passes and the full length of the pitch. And he pointed to what he called a lack of consistency with previous comparable incidents in this tournament, saying that this type of challenge, this type of physical contact, had been allowed throughout the tournament without VAR review. They've been allowing some physical challenges, they've been allowing some physical contact, and then this one got reviewed and canceled the goal. Now here is where Shearer's 6 words become the entire argument, because within minutes of Egypt's goal being disallowed, as the match resumed with Egypt leading 1-0, as the tension inside Atlanta Stadium was at its absolute peak, Mohamed Salah went to ground inside the Argentinian penalty area under a challenge. Egyptian players appealed immediately. The Egyptian bench erupted. Mohamed pointed at his shin. Contact had occurred. The referee, François Letexier, watched the incident and then waved play on, without going to the monitor, without a VAR review.
without applying the same process that had moments earlier overturned an Egypt goal for contact that occurred 20 seconds beforehand. Ian Wright on the ITV broadcast was unambiguous. If you're going to pull it back for Argentina on the edge of the box to disallow a goal, you have to pull it back for this one with Mo Salah. He's been caught. Whatever we say, it might be minimal. He's been caught. And then they go up the other end. Jamie Carragher, who was watching the match alongside Shearer, used one word: robbed.
BBC Sports football issues correspondent, writing on social media during the match, said Egypt's disallowed goal was completely against how this tournament has been refereed. He said you can't have a light touch approach, where you don't give fouls for minimal contact, and then rule out a goal through VAR for a very minimal hold of the shirt. Here's the interesting part. The officiating experts were not all in agreement. The former referee and analyst on the American broadcast, Dr. Joe Matchnick, believed the decision to disallow the goal was correct under the laws of the game. He said a foul in the attacking phase of play, which leads to a goal or possession by the team that scores, can result in the goal being disallowed and a free kick being given. His reading of the law was that the intervention was legitimate. That expert disagreement is important, because it means this is not a simple case of a clearly wrong decision. This is a case of a genuine interpretive gray area, a moment where two qualified, experienced officials with deep knowledge of the laws looked at the same incident and reached opposite conclusions about whether VAR was right to intervene. But, and this is where Shearer's logic becomes irresistible, whether the Atia challenge was or was not a foul, and whether the VAR intervention was or was not within the system's appropriate remit, the Salah incident should have received the same scrutiny. Either the threshold for VAR review includes contact of this kind, or it doesn't. It cannot include it when the outcome would benefit Argentina and exclude it when the outcome would benefit Egypt. That is the inconsistency. And Clattenburg named it plainly. This one had certainly benefited Argentina, and certainly a lot of people around the world will see this as unfair. Argentina scored 3 goals in the final 11 minutes. Christian Romero headed home in the 79th minute. Lionel Messi, in tears, scored his 21st World Cup goal in the 83rd minute to make it 2-2. And Enzo Fernandez scored the winner in the 92nd minute, 3-2 to the defending champions, as Egypt's bench protested furiously at the final whistle. After the match, Egypt's head coach Hossam Hassan stood in front of the media and said things that are extraordinary to hear from a national team manager at a major tournament. He said his team had not seen respect or fair play. He said a penalty was ruled out. He said a second incident that should have been checked for a penalty for Egypt was not even reviewed by VAR. He said a second goal was remarkably, for whatever reason, disallowed. And then he said, "I want to put it in beautiful words and say hard luck, but we have been treated unfairly, and it has been an injustice." The Egyptian Football Association went further. They filed a formal complaint with FIFA, requesting disciplinary action against referee Letexir and his entire officiating team. They used the phrase double standards in their complaint. FIFA has not responded publicly. The Confederation of African Football issued its own statement. They praised Egypt's performance, a team that had gone unbeaten until this round of 16 match, and expressed concern over the refereeing decisions. Institutional concern from a governing body about officiating at the World Cup. And the reaction from outside football, in its own way, was in its own way the most striking indicator of how far beyond the usual football debate this controversy had spread. Garry Kasparov, former world chess champion, one of the most recognizable intellectual figures in international sport, posted on social media that FIFA was beginning to resemble a corrupt joke, that it was playing favorites for stars. His post was shared hundreds of thousands of times within hours. José Mourinho,
one of the most decorated managers in football history, described what had happened as daylight robbery. He asked why all clips involving Argentina were subjected to careful review, while Egypt did not receive the same treatment.
Now, here is where the story takes a turn that has added a dimension to the controversy that nobody anticipated. On the same day that Egypt's complaint was filed, it emerged that FIFA had appointed an all-Argentine on-field officiating crew for France's quarterfinal against Morocco. 3 Argentine officials, assigned to a match involving 2 of the World Cup's most prominent remaining teams, in the week that Argentina's own match had generated accusations of bias in the officiating. The timing was, to put it plainly, extraordinary. FIFA appoints referee assignments independently of match results, and the quarterfinal crew would almost certainly have been selected before the Egypt-Argentina controversy erupted. Referee scheduling at a tournament of this scale is planned weeks in advance. But the visual, an all-Argentine officiating team assigned to a major quarterfinal days after Argentina's own result had generated a formal complaint about refereeing consistency, produced exactly the kind of optics that compound a controversy rather than diffuse it. Now, what do we actually know with certainty here, and what is being claimed without evidence? We know that the Zico goal was disallowed following a VAR review for a foul by Atia on Martinez. We know that the contact was real, but that multiple qualified officiating experts, including Clattenburg, disagreed with both the foul call and the appropriateness of the VAR intervention. We know that a near-contemporaneous incident involving Salah was not reviewed by VAR. We know that Shearer, Carragher, Wright, Clattenburg, Green, and the BBC's football issues correspondent, none of them affiliated with Egypt or with any interest in the outcome, all publicly criticized the inconsistency of the officiating. We know that the Egyptian Football Association filed a formal complaint. We know that FIFA has not responded. What we do not know, and what there is no evidence to support, is that these decisions were deliberately engineered to benefit Argentina, that FIFA instructed or influenced the referee or VAR team, or that the outcome was predetermined. The word rigged has been used online and by some of Egypt's players, but there is no evidence of interference, and the legal and ethical weight of that accusation requires evidence before it can be treated as a conclusion rather than a reaction. What we do know is something more subtle, and in some ways more concerning, that the VAR system, as applied at this tournament, has created a situation where the same type of incident is being treated differently depending on its consequences, that those differences have now produced a formal institutional complaint from a National Football Association, and that the names criticizing the consistency of the officiating, Shearer, Carragher, Wright, Mourinho, Clattenburg, Green, and the BBC's football issues correspondent, none of them affiliated with Egypt or with any interest in the outcome, all publicly criticized the inconsistency of the officiating. Either both are fouls, or neither is a foul. Shearer said 6 words. They were the right 6 words, and the fact that FIFA has still not responded to them, or to Egypt's formal complaint, or to Clattenburg's analysis, or to the institutional concern expressed by the Confederation of African Football, is itself a form of answer. Football at this tournament has given us extraordinary moments. Messi in tears after his 21st World Cup goal. Egypt holding Argentina to 2-0 with 11 minutes to go before the comeback. Comebacks and upsets and the kind of drama that this game produces better than any other sport on earth. But underneath all of it, a question is growing that the tournament's governing body has not yet found a way to answer. Is VAR making football fairer, or is it introducing a new kind of uncertainty, one where technically correct decisions and genuinely inconsistent decisions look identical from the outside,
and where the difference between them is a matter of expert opinion that nobody watching from the stands or at home can independently verify. That question will outlast this tournament, and it will be asked again about this match, about these decisions, about these 6 words from Alan Shearer for a very long time. Subscribe so you don't miss the quarterfinal coverage as this story develops. Like if this breakdown gave you something worth thinking about, and tell us in the comments, were Egypt robbed, or is the Shearer criticism oversimplifying a genuinely difficult officiating call?